we designed this book. It's a one-of-a-kind book. There isn't anything else like it here in the state of California. It's for manufactured homeowners here in the state. I'm kind of an intellectual kind of guy, but I wrote this book sitting down with residents who lived in the park. I wrote this book attending GSMOL meetings, so I had an idea of what was on the minds of residents in the park, and we tried to put it in language that residents could understand. So we took the legal language and the residency law and tried to put it into everyday language so that it was worthwhile and usable by people that live in the parks. There's information in this book about all the important issues. It's an all-in-one reference tool, and there are kind of three main parts to the book. The first part of the book is about selling, buying manufactured homes, getting financing, that kind of thing. The second part is an overview of the government programs, the laws, and that kind of thing. It's not just about the Residency Act, but it's also about the Mobile Home Parks Act and Title 25 and the Public Utilities Commission, what they're doing, and about taxes and all of the various issues where government's involved. And the third part of the book is about creating a residents association and dealing with the press and how to influence elected officials and those kinds of issues so that you can have a really effective residents association. Now, I've observed during meetings that I've attended with residents that there are a lot of issues that you'd like to talk about, and you don't often get a chance to really share the information that each of you have about those issues. So we're going to, rather than me make just a presentation, I'd like to do a kind of interactive discussion about some of the issues that might be important to you. To get the ball rolling, I'd like to start out with a story from Sonoma County. Some of you may recall that about a little over a year ago, there was a contractor who, let's see, he's a contractor. He contacted about a dozen residents in Leisure Lake Mobile Home Park in Petaluma, and he got them to sign up and do various construction projects in that park. The residents he signed, they were going to do leveling of some of their homes and gutter work and downspouts, plumbing work. There were various projects he was doing in that park. Some of the things that he did with those residents, he requested all of the money for the construction project ahead of time, or a substantial part of the money ahead of time. But in the end, he only completed a part of the work, or in some cases, he never showed up after he got the money. This individual, license from the Contractor State License Board had expired in June. This was in November when he had contacted you. His license had expired in June. He had a notice of investigation of probable violation was attached to his license, and he had been fined earlier for violations similar to what he had perpetrated along the residents there in Petaluma. So let's discuss this particular issue. How could those homeowners have found out that he didn't have a contractor's license? Yes, ma'am.
Call the contractors board in Sacramento.
Call the board. Is there any other ways or?
Also look on the internet.
Yeah. Okay. In this book, there's on note 17 on page 270. There's a description of how to go on the internet and find out how to get on the board and find out whether your park owner has a license, whether a contractor has a license, all that kind of stuff. The most important types of projects are discussed in the book on page 119. Problems with foundations are all covered in chapter 12 in the book. What are the kinds of things, what kinds of projects in your manufactured home need to get a permit from the State Department of Housing and Community Development? Yes?
Decks.
I'm sorry?
Decks.
Decks?
Porches, decks.
Decks, okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I apologize. Yes.
Anything over $600.
Anything over $600? Yes?
Replacing water heaters.
Water heaters, replacing water heaters. You know, it's really complicated with HCD as to what needs a permit. We've included a whole, I remember Linda was anxious about this. We included a whole table in here of what needs permits. And that table is on page 147. Okay, and what are some of the unique problems with older manufactured homes? What things, what? They're always cold? Why are they always cold? Poor insulation. Yeah. Sometimes they have those old kind of windows that, the awning windows kind of thing.
Also old wiring.
The old wiring, yeah. You know, some of the homes have aluminum wiring instead of copper wiring. That could be a problem. Dry rot. Dry rot, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so those are, that's an example of just show you that some of the kinds of things that we've got covered in this book. That escrow is covered on page 70. Is where we talk about buying a used manufactured home. That whole section is chapter 8, where we cover that whole section about buying a used manufactured home and all of the processes about titling, that kind of information. The HUD code is discussed on, let's see, it starts on page 93, the description of what the HUD code is, and how that works and all that. In each state, and again, Housing and Community Development in California regulates the factories, also regulates the factories where manufactured homes are constructed, and they make sure that those tags are put on the manufactured homes at the factories. There are maybe two main causes for homes not being level. One cause, I said, is the type of soil that you have, that your home is located on. In Sonoma County, where we have clay soil has a high shrink swell. When it's wet, it expands. When it dries, it contracts. And you know this, you can see this in your yard. If it's dry, it has cracks in it. That means you've got clay soil, and you know, it has those big white cracks in it. That means you've got clay soil, and it has a high shrink swell coefficient. Over time, that shrink swelling can put your piers underneath your home out of alignment and can make your home unlevel. The other problem is water under your home. Yeah. If you got a consistent flooding problem or water pools underneath your manufactured home, that can put your piers out of alignment. Just the water flooding underneath. So those are the two main problems that can put your home out of alignment. That's why I've got to say, you need to get, if you get this book and look and just, it's a short chapter number 12, and read this about level foundations. That'll give you a background if you're buying a new home or you're looking at your existing home. That gives you the background so that you can be sure about your foundation. You can get look underneath your foundation, see what you got. If you've got water pooling underneath there, you can take steps to grade your yard so that the water doesn't pool underneath there, and you can avoid the leveling problems. You can equip yourself with a ball on your floor so that when that contractor comes and says, I want to level my yard, I want to level your house, you can say, hey, you know what? I've tested my house, and I do it every so often, and I know my house is level, and it doesn't need your services. I really have appreciated your questions and your comments. I think this has been a great conversation. Thank you very much for your contribution. To conclude, Linda has copies of the book that she would like to sell you. When you buy them from United Parks Legal Fund, they get to keep the money, and that helps the legal fund help with education and help with legal expenses and help park residents associations on some of the cases and things that they're doing here in Sonoma County. So it helps residents like you. Please buy copies of the book from Linda and the United Parks Legal Fund. Thank you very much.